This is Michael Tucker, and you're watching the new Legends on Deck podcast with host Brian Koss and David Conde.
Look, we know every manager seems to have their own style, and that goes for little leaguers too, right? Where there's a coach who's found his own unique way of teaching the game and is spreading his enthusiasm and love of baseball to camps around the country.
Yellow, my name's Coach Ballgame. I love baseball more than an aardvark loves sliced cucumber. My mission? To get kids to love baseball just as much as me. That's why my #1 rule at camp: outrageous amounts of fun. All right, ball players, trivia question. How many career stolen bases did Big Papi have when his shirt was untucked? 0. Guess who's got their shirt tucked in right now? Kevin Burkhardt. When I say Kevin, you say Burkhardt. Kevin! Burkhardt. Kevin!
Burkhardt. Who's Kevin Burkhardt?
Floss break. Faster. B-honk is down. Get the strong base. Uh-oh. Big Papi jewelry's weighing you down, kiddo. Brookie Cookie. Mac and cheese. Raising Arizona. Just like A-Rod. Big Papi. The Big Hurt. D-Train. Everybody at our camps gets a nickname. Lava Shades. You know why A-Rod was one of the best infielders of all time? He could play baseball with 3 pounds of sunflower seeds. You guys know how the Big Hurt got his nickname? His biceps are so big, it always hurt A-Rod's feelings. All right, A-Rod, special attaboy challenge. This is your #1 nemesis, Little Papi. All right, guys, this is the attaboy challenge. Whoever screams it the loudest wins. Countdown.
3, 2, 1.
Who won? Big Papi? Time to celebrate. You kids want to see the real Big Papi and A-Rod do the attaboy challenge? If you say attaboy loud enough, maybe they'll do it in the studio. All right, Big Hurt, try to keep it civil in there. Kevin Burkhardt, you the man.
Coach Ballgame! I mean, that,
We got a ball game here.
attaboy. Hey, I'll tell you what, he's actually a great follow on Instagram and on YouTube. He just loves the game. It's what our kids need, right?
I love that guy. I'm going to start following him today.
All right, that's why I like Coach Ballgame. Well done. I like it. I like it. Papi, I think the segment is over, but thank you very much. All right.
Welcome to episode 57 of the Legends on Deck podcast. I'm Brian Koss, along with my co-host, David Conde. David, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. How you doing?
Happy New Year. We're right in between the sweet spot there.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to venture back into the youth baseball world. James Lowe, who's better known as Coach Ballgame online, spent the 2023 most of the calendar year, I understand, touring the country as an ambassador for Major League Baseball, youth ambassador, doing camps and instruction across the country. Sandlot games, we're going to hear all about it today. Coach Ballgame, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on. For your viewers there, you know, I'm not escaping a crime. There are no police after me here. I'm just I had to get out of the house. My daughters are still sleeping. My wife is still sleeping. It's like 3 a.m. over here on the West Coast or something. So I am in a very safe parking lot outside my gymnasium. So after this, I'll just go get a little workout in.
Perfect. Yeah, we appreciate David, we were laughing. It's 9 o'clock when we're recording this here in Florida, and we knew you were on the West Coast, and he said, "Are you sure 9 o'clock is a good time for this podcast?" And I said, he suggested it, not me. So,
Yeah.
we're appreciative
I am an early morning guy, but my girls are not. So that I got to get out of the house to do some things. I could have went into my garage, but I don't like to talk quietly, and my voice can carry a little bit. So I said, let's get into a parking lot and let's do it in my car.
Love it. Love it.
Was awesome. So we get to start our show off the way we do with all our guests. Kind of want to get a background as to where did you start baseball? Where did you find the love of the game? When did you play? Did you play high school, college, and then leading up to the instructional side of it? Kind of give us a little bit of an overview of where the game started for you.
Yep. So I grew up in a really small town in North Carolina, a one-horse town called Franklinville, North Carolina, right in the middle of the state. Small house, big backyard, a mom, dad, and two older brothers. And I was the little guy. I was the youngest of the three. And all we did all day long was play sports in the backyard. We'd shoot hoops. My dad built a basketball goal back there. We had a swing set. We had a horseshoe pit. He built this big green wall where we could play tennis against, and he actually painted a strike zone on that green wall in the backyard for us to pitch against. He built a pitcher's mound as well. So we were playing every sport imaginable. I was by the age of 3, and I had much older brothers. So when their friends would come over and all the neighbors would come over, we'd create these Sandlot games. And if you hit the house, it was a double. If you hit the top of the house, it was a triple. If you hit it over the house, it was a home run. And we just, paint some bases in the dirt. Couldn't hit it towards third base. There's a big tree there. And that's what we did all summer long, and in the evenings as well. We even had lights back there. So that created my love of sport. Basketball is my first love. But by the time we got to high school, I narrowed it down to football, basketball, and baseball. Played all three. When I got to junior year of high school, I narrowed it down to football and baseball. Those were king in the Tobacco Road area of North Carolina. Even though I love basketball, it did. I was a little bit late for basketball because of football, and I was a little late for baseball. And I kind of knew by junior year, I think baseball's my play, but I can't give up football. Just the amount of relationships, friendships, love of the game, Friday night lights, all the life lessons that I was gaining from that sport. I had to keep playing that one. So once Brown University called, they offered me a spot, possibly as a pitcher and an outfielder, as I got to college, and I could have went to a Carolina school, Carolina State, Duke, but I felt like I had a chance to play. I felt like I had a chance to start as a freshman at Brown, and so that was the play. I went there 4 great years. Started as a freshman, all Ivy a couple of years, and it was the best 4 years of my baseball life. More than anything, just the relationships I made there, the friendships that I still really lean on to this day. That was Brown U, and what got me out here to California was a teammate. He was 2 years older than me at Brown. We both loved baseball. We both played music. And we both loved the movie Dumb and Dumber. So by the first night we met, we'd quoted the entire film. I think Dumb and Dumber is a film. I don't think it's a movie. We quoted the entire film. We'd lined up some gigs as a band, and he was our closing pitcher on the team, and I was an outfielder. So once he graduated, he went and played with the Tigers and the Cardinals for a couple years. Then moved out to Los Angeles and started a baseball academy, started coaching youth baseball camps. And for me, I also loved the arts. I loved writing, directing, acting. So I said, LA's it. That's the spot. I can do all these things. And then to pay the bills, I can work baseball camps with my buddy. So that's what got me into the instructing game. And my 20s were really a grounds for I would say it was my grad school in coaching. That's where I surrounded myself with really great mentors, really great coaches who knew how to engage kids, knew how to reel them in and teach them love of play, knew what lens to look through, all those good things. So that's I guess a 3-minute snippet of 1982 to about 2005 right there.
I think we lost at Moonlight.
Yeah,
we did lose some moonlight. So, just imagine what my face looks like, viewer, and just listen, just close those eyes and listen.
We'll gradually see him as the sun comes up,
That is true. That's true.
That'll work.
So I want to go back to one thing you said, which is awesome about having that green wall. We had a building that we would put the sign on. We would throw a baseball, sponge ball, tennis ball, whatever ball we can find to play against it. But now you talk about hitting the house. So what type of ball are you hitting that's hitting the house?
Yes, had to use a tennis ball.
Okay.
And that was communicated pretty quickly to us. Our dad, he really was. He taught us how to laugh. He taught us how to play sports. We were always watching sports on TV in the living room with him. But Mom really taught us everything else. She taught us how to be polite, how to be kind, how to be respectful, how to keep our shoes out in the garage and not get mud and red clay into the house. And she taught us not to break windows. So that's a big reason why now when I travel around the country and coach kids, a lot of times we just use tennis balls and we can get a bunch of different Sandlot games going on one field at one time. Cause that's how I grew up playing. And I turned out just fine once I got older. So it was nice for us as kids to know, hey, we don't have to have a real field. We don't have to have awesome equipment. We don't have to have dugouts. We can just go in the backyard, grab a stick, grab a broom, grab something and a tennis ball, and we can play. So that was that.
And for those just showing up to the podcast, maybe midstream, we want to let you know that Coach Ballgame is there. We just saw his face pop up again. It's not just him speaking. So just for those that are coming in, Mr. James Lowe is in on the podcast today. His face comes in and out. That's right.
That's right. That's right.
I love the tennis ball thing. I remember going through a lot of tennis balls as a kid, and I never played tennis. So it was, it was perfect. We used to play in the street with them. You could hit them with a wooden bat or an aluminum bat, and they're fun because they'll launch with those. Anyway,
I want to say my grandfather. So we would be on our street. We had houses on both sides. I lived on the street in Brooklyn, and so we would hit the ball, and a lot of them would go on the roof, and our roofs were flat. So my grandfather every once in a while would go up to the roof and say, "Hey," and just start throwing all the balls down there.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it opens up a lot of options. You can play in a street, you can play in an alley, and when you talk to guys like Albert Pujols and Pedro Martinez from the Dominican. I mean, they were using limes and they were wrapping twine around those limes so they wouldn't get lime juice in their eyes when they hit it. They'd use bottle caps, anything you can get your hands on to swing. It really opens up a lot more joy. And no matter where you're from, no matter what your bank account looks like, hey, you can get out there and play.
No doubt. No doubt. So I will say the first time I kind of came across your stuff online earlier this year, there was one video that really sticks out to me as something that kind of, I think it encaptures a lot of what you're doing out there. Is you were in Cooperstown, New York. I believe there was some kind of, I don't know if it was inauguration for the Hall of Fame weekend, or I know it appeared there was a bunch of youth tournaments going on. and they were, it might have been during the inauguration weekend, but you were sitting in the middle of the street playing the bongo and just like engaging people as they walk by, making up songs, playing, just playing around. And, people were stopping and chatting with you, and you were making up lyrics as you went and all that. I mean, it was a really fun video. And it was like a, had kind of like this whole very grassroots, come on in and join the party sort of feel to it.
Yeah.
So I got to imagine some of that has to, some of that element plays into what you do with your camps and your clinics and your 2023 tour.
Yep, it does. Well, I mean, I've always played the drums, and that's my love. I mean, and my nickname is Coach Ballgame because my favorite thing to do is coach kids. But I always tell my kids that my second favorite thing to do is play the drums while I'm eating spaghetti and meatballs. That's my second favorite thing to do. But that'd be too long of a nickname, so I just go with Coach Ballgame.
Yeah.
But once I figured I could marry a lot of my interests onto a baseball field, I had mentors that would bring instruments out, and I would see the faces on the kids, how they'd light up, and they were engaged by the art, by the music. They would tell stories as well. And I would see how different personality types would gravitate towards that. So I said, well, this isn't just strictly baseball. They're not just shoving baseball knowledge down their throats. They're actually reeling them in with different, with baseball stories or baseball songs, but they're doing it in a lot of different ways. So when you marry baseball and art, you got me. I mean, I am sold. So MLB has hired me on to be their youth ambassador. So I do about 10 or 11 gigs a year where they'll fly me into a place and I'll run a camp for MLB. They run free camps for kids all over the world. And that particular video was from the Scott Rowland, Fred McGriff weekend in Cooperstown. And we had a camp over at Doubleday Field, and I was right on Main Street there with my drum, just pointing kids in the direction of Doubleday Field. Hey, we're doing a free camp. There'll be some drums out here. The drum you saw, I have two drums. I have a box drum called a cajon, and we call that the Rod Carew drum because, I mean, this is a story for another podcast, but I met Rod Carew in a gas station out here. Minutes later, he shows up to my Sandlot, surprises all the kids, and signs my drum there. That was my cajon drum. That's the box that I sit on when I'm rattling off all the nicknames. If you've seen any of those videos of the nicknames, I like to do that everywhere I go. Just to kind of document each nickname that I coach on the tour. And then I have a conga drum that's got about 60 signatures on it, 11 Hall of Famers. That weekend I got Jim Thome and Cal Ripken Jr. and Trevor Hoffman to sign it. So more names for that big conga. But yeah, when you're in the middle of the street in a fedora hat and you're playing the drums, you'll definitely garner some attention. But as my wife can attest, it's all organic. It's very genuine. I don't like to put on any sort of fake show. This is me. This is who I am. I enjoy life. I try to squeeze every ounce of enthusiasm and joy from this life. And kids, they really pick up on if you're being disingenuous. They kind of turn you off quick. So I learned that early. Just be myself, and the kids will come.
Yeah, no, it's so. I mean, it's just it appears to be so much fun. It like the way that you've approached, the whole teaching a baseball philosophy. I mean, kind of what you're saying about. Doesn't matter what kind of ball you need, like bring in the songs, bring in the music, bring in the stories, So when you do these now, so you were saying 10 of these events that you do throughout the year are Major League Baseball associated or affiliated. And then all the other tour spots that you're doing, this is your program?
Correct. Yeah. So last January and February, I was on the phone most of those 2 months, just lining up this schedule. And this Sandlot tour, the first Sandlot I ever did was in 2017. I'd been doing camps in Southern California and private lessons since 2005. But when I moved to Orange County, just south of Angel Stadium here, I started to notice parents coming up to me and saying, "Hey, I think my kid's going to quit Little League. It's too either overwhelming or too many practices or too much pressure, or a coach yelled at me. The kid just doesn't love the game anymore." And I said, "How old is he?" And 7, 8, 6, 5, those ages were being thrown out. And I said, what is happening to my game here? I didn't even start playing competitive baseball till I was 8. But the specialization and this movement of win at all costs had seeped into the baseball culture, and it was weaning out every non-elite player, which was 99% of the players out there. So I said, we got to do something for this 99% that aren't elite. And so I started my own Little League, so to speak. I just a once a week Sandlot game, and it spanned ages 4 to 13, but we used a tennis ball, so it was safe. And that grew as the years went by, and then COVID hit 2020, and that's when it really grew here in Southern California, because I was the only game in town. Under my umbrella of camps, I could still run my weekly Sandlots, but nobody was able to play basketball or soccer or baseball. There was no leagues going on. So that's when it really grew to where I could do a beginner age group out here, an intermediate, an advanced, and the whole purpose of the Sandlot is to teach love of play, so they'll come back next year and make them a better person, period. Because if you ask any high school coach, any college coach, any major league manager or coach, they're going to say the same thing. We want a well-rounded athlete. We want somebody who loves the game and is a great athlete, and then we want somebody of high character. So knowing that's kind of the lens I look through as I coach these Sandlots. So at that same time in 2020, to bring it back to the tour, I got a phone call from an old lady. She said, "You don't know me. You don't know me, Coach Ballgame. My name is Sandy, and my husband was a teacher and a coach for 50 years, and he just passed away after a long fight with cancer. Before he died, he'd seen one of your videos, and he loved your approach to teaching fun and character. And he said, in lieu of flowers, when I pass on, send money to this guy." So I immediately said, "Well, this is a prank call. It can't be true." So I got on the phone with her son, and his name's Matt, and he said, "There's no catch here. Dad loved what you were about. He did the same thing. He loved to give nicknames to his students and his players. What's your Venmo?" And I talked to my wife, and I say, I think they're going to just Venmo us money, like a grant. $20,000 later, Venmo from his former players, his former students, his family members. And the message in the Venmo said, "You don't know me, but I loved Dave." Dave was his name. Nickname was Buppa. So we created this bank account called the Buppa Scholarship, and we were wondering what to do with this money. And in 2021, we decided to run some free Sandlots around the country. I'd gone back to North Carolina and Louisiana, where my brother was living, and ran some camps. And I noticed, well, this thing that I'm doing, it's needed and it plays across the country. So I think it would play in every state. So we decided on 5 cities, used the grant money to pay for me and my wife and 2 daughters to fly into Iowa, rent a van, and we did a free Sandlot in Dyersville, which is the city where the Field of Dreams is.
Yeah.
Then we drove to St. Louis. Then we drove to Chicago. Then we drove to Pennsylvania, and we finished the tour by Yankee Stadium. We had boots on the ground there, old college buddies or friends, family members that could find us a field, help get the word out. And so that was the beginning of the tour, 5 cities in 2021. As more people on social media started to gather that I was taking this show on the road, then 22 cities popped up in 2022. And then this past year, 2023, we did 10 with MLB and 52 on my own. So this past January and February, it was just kind of on the phone with all these boots on the grounds that said, "Hey, we love what you're doing. We think it could serve 2 purposes. It could create a great fun camp for the kids, but more importantly, you can teach the coaches how to coach and teach the parents how to parent. Because let's be honest, that is very needed. I think a lot of the toxicity in youth sports stems from uneducated parents. So that I started as an uneducated coach. I knew how to play the game. I didn't know how to coach it to 5 and 6 and 7 and 8-year-olds. So I had a learning curve, and I feel like my job, my mission is to help that learning curve with parents around the country now.
Well, Coach, you had me at hello, because you're pretty much speaking everything that I've been talking with Brian about since we started the podcast, since I've been coaching. I didn't play professional ball. I didn't play college baseball. I played a little bit of high school, but I'm a student of the game. I love the game. And when my oldest son was maybe, I think 5 or 6, we were in Target. He came back and he had a helmet and a bat, and I was like, great, it's time to start. He wants to try baseball, and we did it. And I remember my one experience. We're in a baseball league, and he must have been 8 or 9 years old, I think. And they said, "Hey, you want to coach?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll take a team, I'll coach." So they gave me kids that, they all laughed, right? They gave me kids that they thought weren't good enough. And all I wanted was the kids. I just wanted 9 kids, go on the field and just have fun. And I can tell you from that first game, we lost 15-1. I walked on the field. I'm like, oh my God, I don't think I can do this. I can't get these kids to really play the game. What am I going to do? And I just went back and I said, this is a fun thing. This is just a game. Just coach it that way. And I can tell you, we made it to the playoffs that year. We were 1 game away from going to the championship. And all the coaches didn't say anything after that. And every single team that they gave me were always the kids that didn't understand the game, didn't know the game. And I loved it, because those are the kids that taught the game, that when they learned the game and loved the game, they kept playing, and they played high school and went on to other things. A real quick story: I had a kid that his brother was better than him, and they were twins, both in the same team. The brother, the good guy, the better brother was, doing all the hits and the bases and striking everybody out and everything. And we made it to the championship that season. And the other brother comes up, and we're tied. Last inning, 2 outs, bottom of the last inning, tied up. We might have to go to extra innings. So I'm already planning for extra innings. He hits a shot to right field, over the right fielder's head. I said, I'm going to send him. He comes home, slides inside the park, home run, wins the championship for us. The kid never played baseball again, but he had the best experience he ever had in his life. And I've always looked at that, like you mentioned. There are kids out there that there should be no pressure at 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old. You get to high school, yes, there's pressure because now you're in front of scouts and you want to go to college, but there should be no pressure at that age. They should just be having fun. So, I've been coaching over the years. I coached my oldest one till he was about 13, 14. I kind of let him go into his high school years, and I'm coaching my younger one now. And recently, I love the whole Sandlot. I love it. I believe in it. I feel like, kids nowadays, we had a coach on recently, and we talked about how we have to direct the kids how to do things because they don't understand what to do. We always have to tell them what to do. And when you're in the game, you're always asking them what happened. I don't know, coach. I'm waiting for you to tell me. I'm like, well, that's not the point of baseball. So I started a couple of weeks ago, I think Thanksgiving weekend, I put together a Sandlot game. And I just said, I told all the coaches in the league, we have 4 teams, just have the kids come to the field. Have them show up. We're going to have a game. What are you going to do? I'm not coaching. We're just going to have a game. Sandlot. That's all we're going to do. I had 18 kids show up. Said, Coach, what are we doing? Put them together, threw the bat up in the air. They did the whole, trying to get to the top thing. They chose their team, what team they're going to play. And the funny thing was, one guy chose all the kids that were the better ball players, and the other guy chose the kids that were smaller. And I said, oh, it's kind of going to be a kind of landslide here. Nope. They played about 3 or 4 innings, and the team that you didn't think were going to win came back and won. They loved it. It was amazing. And we're doing one again tomorrow. And I believe in that, because if the kids can figure out the game by themselves and just play it, they'll learn to love it and they'll learn to understand it. And then coaching could be a little less of the screaming and directing and yelling. We could just sit back and watch it. And then if they, make a mistake here and there, as they come into the dugout, we can say, hey, remember when you ran this route? Let's try this route to the ball, because it'll be better. Rather than me screaming out to him and embarrassing him in front of the whole fans and everything else, the kid can have his own instinct of it. So that was my point. That's my side of what I see the Sandlot. But I guess leading up to this question is
well, first let me cut you out there, because that was a lot of beautiful stuff there to unpack. And that's a book in itself, just that story that you related. First off,
I love to talk baseball. Sorry.
Hey, well, first off, thank God that you are doing what you're doing, because MLB, they understand that the secret to growing our game is with youth. It's teaching love of play with youth. And I go on top of that. I re-raise and I say the secret to that secret is we've got to educate parents and coaches. We've got to create an army of wonderful, positive, empowering coaches like yourself that will just start a Sandlot. And I have 2 kind of anecdotes for your story there. As I began running these Sandlots and having kids just show up once a week and learn how to love the game and learn how to be a good person of high character on a baseball field, I had a kid who was very, very good, played a lot of travel ball, and almost seemed a little burnt out by the pressures of 7 games a weekend and trying to get that trophy and not being able to play soccer because they had to play year-round baseball to keep their place on that travel ball team. Yuck, by the way. Disgusting. But we're playing this game with a tennis ball and no gloves and a broomstick, and he comes up to me, he's like, Coach Ballgame, this is fun. as if surprised, like the game of baseball feels fun. He had learned that no, baseball is work and it should feel like work and it stinks. And that was a real eye opener for me to just like say, wow, he's very surprised of this feeling of joy that he's got while playing the game. A second anecdote is a parent came up, watched an hour and a half of this Sandlot, talks to me afterwards, says, I was expecting as I walked up to the field to feel lots of anxiety and staring at the scoreboard and yelling at the umpire and yelling at my kid. And there was none of that. It just felt like a birthday party. And my kid performed way better today than they've ever performed in a real game. And there's another eye opener. A la the Savannah Bananas, you will play better when you're feeling joy. So that's kind of how any coaches on the other side of the fence that think it's all about win at all costs, you have to build their trust first, but slowly teach them these kids are actually going to perform way better in the high leverage moments when they have that sense of joy and that freedom to fail. My good buddy growing up, way better player than me, but I was much more clutch, and that was just due to pressures off the field by our fathers. My dad never threw any pressure on me. He always sat behind the left field fence and smiled at the 0 for 5s, smiled at the 5 for 5s, he kept it even because he got it. He knew I would perform better when I wasn't looking over my shoulder at him after every error. And so the big moment never scared me. I really thrived on it. I loved it. I enjoyed it. So all that to say, right on, man. You're doing it right. Good job.
Well, let me tell you, the whole travel ball thing, that's another podcast we could talk about. My son is an excellent catcher. My younger one can hit. And I tried the travel ball thing in the summer. We did a weekend of it. And he said, Dad, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do a weekend baseball. I want to do my fishing. I'll do baseball during the week, but I want to fish on the weekend. I said, you know what? If that means that you're still going to play baseball and have fun with it, we're not going to do the travel ball thing. And we don't need 7 games in a weekend. We can have 2 games in a week. He plays great. And then come the weekend, he does his thing. And I'm happy with that because I still get to see him play baseball. And to me, that's great. That as a parent and a coach, that's all you kind of want is just watch the kids play. I mean, I love the game. I love Sandlot. And if maybe we could just do Sandlot all the time, I think these kids would just fall in love with this game every single moment of their life instead of being on the phone all the time.
100%, man.
Yeah,
So,
well, go ahead, David.
No, get Brian. You got some.
Oh, so I was curious. So we were talking about your tour and how most of yours were set up. That story about the Venmo thing was amazing. I mean, that was like one of those.
Yeah, genesis of it all.
It's amazing. But so MLB, how did MLB discover you and the play ball program? I've seen, actually, I'm sitting there and you and I connected through Twitter maybe 6 months ago and kind of sent messages back and forth, and we try to figure out when to get you on. But I'm sitting there watching the World Series and I hear John Smoltz talk about Coach Ballgame. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm like, wait a second. So I'm tuned in and I'm like, yeah, the Play Ball Initiative and Coach Ballgame and the Sandlot. And I'm like, this is great. So what was the, you're out there, you're instructing in California, you're doing this, you hit the road with the Venmo money from the funeral, from the coach that passed away. And then you're launching this. And how does MLB discover what you're doing?
One guy. His name's Joe Buck. So Joe, the Joe Buck, voice of the game forever. Dad called 50 years of Cardinals games. Jack Buck. He's a friend, and we met through mutual friends out here in LA. And once he got word that I was a youth baseball coach, he was all in. So we had many discussions back in 2017 and 2018 about, what can I do with MLB? We thought about creating a show, kind of like This Week in Baseball. So he was willing to knock on doors at MLB because he's built a lot of stock there. And he got me in the door. And then it was my job to just knock that thing down once I got in front of all the high brass there. So all thanks to Joe. You got to have somebody up the ladder that can pull for you. And once he got me in the door, I just really, once I started coaching those camps at the All Star games and World Series, I just tried to really bring a lot of energy because it's a great idea, play ball, where you just run free camps for a lot of kids that are in underserved areas. They don't have little leagues, they don't have fields, they don't even know how to hold a bat. So they work with a lot of boys and girls clubs and get kids on a baseball field in front of major leaguers, former and present, just to get them playing. They give them a little foam bat, they give them a little foam ball as they go back home, and I just tried to bring the heartbeat, and I also really I prioritize character. So I tell the Roberto Clemente story everywhere I go, and so I've told that story what feels like a billion times to a billion kids. Where there's this guy from Puerto Rico who grew up using a lemon for a ball and a stick for a bat, and he was very poor. And he grew up to be one of the best baseball players of all time, but he's known for his kindness. He's known for loading up airplanes full of gifts and giving to the poor. So when you when you put that extra nugget on this hour and a half camp of now go out and be an incredible person, I think that's the identity that we're really trying to build with play ball is how can we make these kids better people, and then how much fun can we create in that 90 minutes to where not only the kids fall in love with the game and want to go back and play that game in their backyard or their street, but show the parents. I really I'm preaching to the parents while I'm teaching the kids to educate them on what lens to look through. Make these kids better fathers one day. Make them servers of their community, and keep bringing them back to the game. Keep teaching that love, because the life lessons they're going to learn on this field, it's going to keep them away from the video games. It's going to keep them away from the bad choices. They'll learn a whole lot about life on a baseball field or a basketball court or a football field. So just keep them coming back. That's what I try and educate. So all that to say, my man, Joe.
No, that's really cool. And I will say this from we've talked about this, David, and some of our writers at Legend on Deck have been writing about this, but Major League Baseball needs, and seems that with what you're doing, this is happening, but to engage young people, not just as, yes, you want to create players and you want to create the fun of the game. That is what keeps the kids fans for life, right? Mm-hmm. So, and what you're doing with sharing some of the history of the game and the players from the past that they may have never heard of, right? The Roberto Clementes and the Babe Ruths and the Jackie Robinsons and the, list goes on, right? Mickey Mantles. But if Major League Baseball, the biggest asset they have are all the young people across the country, and frankly, with the international flavor of the game across the world. But that's what's going to bring people back. That's, the very elite, that 1% are the kids that are to go on to play at an elite college level or get drafted. That's a different category of kids. But those 99% or more are the ones that are going to be their fans for life. The ones that are going to go buy tickets for the ball game and subscribe to MLB TV and do all those things. So
exactly,
you got to create your customer base with the passion for the game.
And then that 0.5% that will make it to college, and the 0.1% that will make it to minor league ball, and the 0.00001% that will make it to major league ball. Hey, you got to remind those kids too that this game is fun, because
that's a great
once
point.
It gets really difficult, and once everybody's a little bit better than them, they need to love that game to grind through all those obstacles, and they need to have built up a high character threshold to be able to grind through all the slumps and show up early and stay late and get that extra hour of working out in. So it works for all 100%. Teach love of play and build their character up.
Well, I think more than anything else, what you're doing, and baseball is not as sexy as maybe football and basketball in some parts of this country. Kids just don't want to do baseball. A lot of kids say it's boring. You come in, you make it fun. You just make it what it is, a game, and you get so many more kids to be involved in it. You out of all those kids, you'll never know one kid who never knew about the game, never understood the game, and felt, wow, this is fun this way. Maybe they don't go on and play Major League Baseball. Maybe they become a Savannah banana ball. They play that, but they're playing the game and they're being active in it, and they can become mentors in the game, just like you have been and your friends have been, and everyone else has just kind of gone back and taught the game to these kids. So what you're doing is something that I wish I can do. Go around this country and just teach this game and have fun doing it. I mean, that is an awesome job to have. But I think all in all, I mean, we're just trying to get these youth and create, like you said, men and young adults for this world, and then they can go on and continue to do the same thing over and over again and set the generation for the next generation to come.
Yeah, man. A good coach will will change a game, but a great one changes a life. So that snowball effect and that drip of impact is a real life giver. I think when coaches start to look through that lens, they have life. They see the world differently. They have more joy. They're closer with their kids. There's a two-way street with their conversations with their own children, sons and daughters, and the dynamic there is better. It just makes everything better.
Right. So the one thing we like to do, which maybe other podcasts don't, but we like to share about what everyone else is doing in the game. We love the game of baseball. We love that people share the game of baseball, and we love to share that out as well. So kind of, you have your co-host on a podcast called Talking Shop, and with you and Coach Chop. Did I get that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
That is right. Yeah.
What inspired the two of you to come together to create the podcast?
So he went a lot further than me. He played minor league ball in the Expos organization, which is now the Nationals organization. And then he was coaching high school ball here in Southern California, and got a job as a coach for the Giants, as a major league coach up there, throwing BP, hitting fungos, video replay. So he won a couple rings there. Then he went to the Dodgers, did the same thing, won a World Series ring with the Dodgers, and he became known as the hype guy. He's the guy in the clubhouse hyping up Jock Peterson or Buster Posey when they're in a slump, or when they need some positivity. So he brings his sons to one of my summer camps here in Orange County, and we hit it off right away. And he's like, "I think I'm one of the best coaches in the world. But Coach Ballgame, I think you might be a little bit better. So I think the two of us need to do a podcast." I said, "I think it's a great idea." So that was the genesis. And the Talking Shop with Coach Ballgame and Coach Chop is a podcast to make youth sports better. Simple as that. Make youth sports better. How do we do that? You make coaches better coaches. You make parents better parents, and you make kids happier kids. So we bring on all the guests we know. I know Albert Pujols, I know Joe Buck, I know a few others, and my goodness, he's bringing in Mookie Betts and Dave Roberts. He's really built a lot of trust with the Hunter Pences of the world. So when you can have those guys pour the same message into this, maybe some parents will turn their heads and say, "Okay, why am I staring at the scoreboard? Why does my kid have to play high school baseball, or why do I have to play college baseball? Why can't they just learn life skills and life lessons on a sandlot or on a baseball field, and let the chips fall where they may?" So it's a very necessary topic, and very needed to spread some joy in this youth sports culture. So that's it. That's the pod. How do we make it all better? And I selfishly love it on a weekly basis. It makes me a better coach. It makes me a better father, just to discuss ways of how do you deal with a parent that's clinging to the fence, or a parent that's yelling during games? How do you deal with a kid that shows a lack of effort? And bringing on some of my mentors and great coaches that have learned tips along the way, man, we can really build an army of great coaches.
Well, that's awesome. I'm gonna subscribe right now as I'm clicking the button. I think all of us can learn something different as a coach, how to approach different ways with the parents and the kids. I think that just makes us better. It just educates us to go that route. I tell the kids not to listen to their parents while they're in the field with me. I'm your parent, I'm your father, I'm your leader. I tell the parents I don't want to hear you screaming. And then when the kids go outside the fence, I said, now you listen to your parents. Now you have to respect. Now you have to do what your parents say. It works 99% of the time. The other time it doesn't. You always have that one, but I'll be subscribing and sending this to all my coaches. So we can
Right
listen.
on. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's
buddy.
great. Well, Coach Ballgame, we really appreciate your time coming on, especially waking up so early. As I predicted, when the sun would come up and and Coach Ballgame would appear, they joined us extra early there from sunny Southern California. I think we're maybe, I don't know, David, what's temp down there in Southwest Florida today?
It's gonna be 74 today, but shooting by tomorrow, we're gonna drop it down to 40. So it's a big shock to the body.
Oh geez, I didn't even check the weather for tomorrow. We're gonna get cold. We're gonna get cold here in Florida.
Yeah. It might even snow.
Hope it warms back up for my Sandlots in the Tampa area mid-January. Let's hope.
Yeah,
so.
we'll make sure to we'll make sure to get that info out there for you too on the Sandlots, and we have some friends and colleagues over in the Tampa area as well. So
fantastic, thank you.
Well, we appreciate your time today. David, EZIP Mortgage as our sponsor of the podcast. Of course, we have the Legends on Deck merch page. Lots of new stuff rolling out on Legends on Deck over the next couple of months. So we appreciate your time here in the new year, almost to the new year. So we're gonna, looking forward to maybe we'll cross paths down here in Florida over the next couple of weeks.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Keep doing the good work.
All right, we will. Episode 57. Thank you very much.
Thank you.